Morning, it's Thad with Willoway Nurseries here in Avon, Ohio. We're a little cold this morning. It's 25 degrees here. We've had upwards of near 70s here in Avon, but we're kind of in that cold period again. We're going to warm back up a little bit later here. But I want to talk about shipping. We're still shipping out. It's that time of year where people are stocking up, getting their yards ready, so when the weather does break fully, they're ready to go when the customers get there. A couple things we do here at the nursery is we have these all trees on pallets. That's to help us load them quicker and easier. I talked about that in some previous videos where it's so important to have trees where you can pick it up with a forklift and move them and have the ability not to have to overhandle plants. Some of the other things that are unique, or not unique, but we do, is we use this foam on the trunks to protect the trunks. So they each get wrapped, and you can see we tie the top of the trees together. That's for two reasons. One is to, when we have a wide plant, we pull it back together so it loads easier, but it's also easier so we don't have so much breakage in the limbs and shipping. The trunk wrap, the foam, is for basically protecting the trunk when we lay these over, that the pot, even if it does touch the trunk, it doesn't damage it at all. So some of the other things is we have program pots here. You can see they get this nice wrap that goes on it, so it goes with the program. So you can see first editions, it calls it out, spells out that this is a plant that you want to look at a little closer. Some plants like this, because it's Parkland pillar birch, it's a columnar upright, we do not tie the tops on that type of plant. As you can see behind me, we have our Gandy. That's a machine that basically, you can see the arm that's over top of the plants. What that does is it has granulated herbicide, pre-emergent, that we're actually blowing up through a fan off the PTO shaft that blows it out into that arm and drops it, deposits across the plants. We get a really nice deposition, and really we've reduced our need for pre-emergent herbicide by about 20% by using this, because we get such a nice spread. They have to kind of go a little slow. They're about 2.5 miles an hour as they go across the field. We're using like Marengo and some other products for this, but really nice application. ROI, we had about a little less than 2 years on this for this unit, not including the tractor, but really happy with the pre-emergent control we're getting in the fields. And we can use this on our container crops as well. Some of the other uses we're using is we do a monthly application of snail bait for that certain crop, so we're using that as well for this. So multi-role, multi-use. So really happy with the machine. As you can see, it's got about 20-foot boom on it, so we get real nice reach over top of plants. It has a reach of about 18 foot high. So we can get over top of really high houses. Hi, I want to talk a little bit about Japanese maples. We covered some houses, which we'll talk about here. Other houses we didn't. So some of like Emperor Ones, Blood Goods, some of those are still really tight buds. They haven't started to break yet at all. And that's really important. We're trying to keep these things as dormant as possible. March 1st is when we start looking at taking the plastic off these houses, with the understanding that we're probably going to have to cover them 3, 4, 5 times through the spring when we go up it. We ride this roller coaster of temperatures. Last night we were down to the mid-20s, and these are fine. They got a nice frost on them, but there's some other varieties like a conifolium, which we'll look at in a minute here. They've already started to open up, so we have to protect those. Japanese maples it's critical to keep them dormant as long as possible. That's why we get the plastic off early as we can, so that we hold them in this dormancy. This cold weather last night will help hold them. Once they start to break bud and emerge and elongate, the buds start to elongate, and you see leaves starting to come, that's a point where it's really critical. If they get a frost, that will damage the tissue, the new growth that pushes out, and you will have dieback and loss in the branching. So it's really critical that you monitor what stage your Japanese maples are in. It's also a real critical time right now to get any of the Japanese maples that we're producing that aren't saleable we're doing a dormant trim on them right now before they flush the new growth. What that does is help build a little better head, a little better branching in them. The saleable material, we're not trimming. We will trim that once the new growth kind of comes out. But that's a little bit down the road. We'll talk about that a little later. So we covered this house up. As you saw earlier, we had tight buds that were really tight. As you can see in this, they're starting to elongate or emerge. This is the critical time where we really have to be watching what we're doing. If these buds burn or get damaged, we could have branch dieback on them. So we moved the conifoliums here. That's one of the early breaking ones. There's a couple other ones that are out there. But you kind of got to know which ones are which and just be watching for this when the buds break, that you get them where they're protected a little bit. That's in our production here, but also in your yards where you get them. So a conifolium, as I said here, breaking already. It's one of the early ones. There's one or two other ones on the other end of the spectrums, blood good, emperor ones. Those are down the road a little bit later. They're the later breaking ones. They're more hardy as well. So that's a little bit to play into it as far as how they break as well.